You know I'm a hustler, hustler. You know I'm a hustler, hustler.
Welcome to Get Biz, Do Biz, Get Paid. I am your host, Luan the Don. In this show, we're going to interview successful business owners in construction and construction coaches. We're going to find out what it really takes to win in the construction industry, what it really takes to make a lot of money, have a great life, and be able to do the thing that you wanted to do. Enjoy. Hey, it's your boy Luan back again with another hard-hitting episode today. I have Madeline Stout from Profit Panda. Without further ado, she is the number whiz and process-driven CPA firm that understand construction businesses. And I'm honored to have her here. Welcome, Madeline.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be one of your first few guests. I've been waiting for you to have a podcast for a while. You have a lot of good information to share.
Well, thank you. I think you do too as well. I cannot. I don't think that the topic on knowing your number is being discussed enough and often in the industry. So that's why I have you on here, and maybe you can share some of the story that you've seen over the years running people finances on the back end of the construction business.
Yeah. I know we were talking a little bit before we started this podcast recording, and I want to make sure that we keep this like as impactful as possible for your listeners. I know that people tend to kind of hit the snooze button when it comes to talking about taxes and accounting, but ultimately we're all in business because we're trying to make a profit, right? Even if you're a nonprofit company, you still have to make money, and there's going to be some pillars to not only help you make money, but also keep it. And so that's basically why I started Profit Panda, is to not only help equip our clients with the information that they need to make business decisions, but also on the tax planning side, keep it. Most of the time, us business owners, we know how to make sales. We're making some element of revenue, but if we don't have our margins dialed in, or if we're not doing any tax planning, I mean, you and I both know that money can walk out of the door so fast. So typically, so we have what's called the Profit Panda proven process. And honestly, it comes down to just a lot of visibility and transparency around bookkeeping and financial planning. And so typically what we see with that, the folks who are with us for that 12 months or more, when I look back to when we first started the firm, typically our client average banking balance was around $11,000. And looking at now today, a year later, our average client banking balance from the same case study then is over $200,000 in their main checking account. So I know for sure the power, just knowing your numbers has in your business. And even if we were to do nothing but give you good quality financial data, you're going to start making better decisions. You're going to start having better conversations with your sales team, your production team. And ultimately, we want to partner with our clients in a very collaborative way to give them the information that they actually need to make decisions.
Wow, that's to me, I'll be honest that running the business by the number has never been, I'm not saying my strong case, but it never. I don't have enough tracking resources to do it. Versus like bookkeeping and keeping my hands on each jobs, and I mean, last year we kind of clean up the books a little bit, and I realized how much money I was blowing off to the IRS and how much money I was blowing off to, just it's little bullshit, but it's a lot of little shit become big shit to where it's like, I could have make like an extra 50 grand here, like
Absolutely.
extra 30 grand here, so talk to us a little bit about some of the key number that we need to know as business owner to not run ourselves down that down of that hard to dig hole.
Yeah. For sure. So I feel like there's so many things to talk about. Like, but the first thing before we even get into how to track your numbers is how should we make sure that your entity is set up properly so that way you're taxed at the most favorable rate. A lot of times people ask me, should I be an LLC? Should I make an S corp? Am I a partnership? Like just starting there can unlock a lot of tax savings. So just as a general rule of thumb for anyone who's listening, if you look at your profit and loss statement and your bottom line is showing anywhere from 60, 80, $100,000 or more, it's usually time to make an S election. And so what that means, just so I can unpack that a little bit for anyone who's just starting out in business, is whenever you form a business, typically you form an LLC or a partnership. Now, whenever you form an LLC, not only do you have to pay income taxes, but you also have to pay self-employment taxes, which is nearly 16% of your income. So if we just simply file a piece of paper with the IRS, we put you on an owner payroll, you can file what's called an S election and you no longer have to pay self-employment tax. That's 16% right there just by filing that form. So partnering with someone who can at least look at your books and give you that preliminary guidance, it could take honestly 30 minutes to an hour of time to save you tens of thousands of dollars in taxes. Once you get through kind of the way that your entity is set up or the way that the IRS is viewing you from a tax perspective, now we can start unpacking your numbers. So where we start out with a lot of our clients, and same with you, because Deck Bros is a client, is we want to make sure that the books are accurate, they're up to date weekly, sometimes even more frequently than weekly, but we want to make sure that you're getting information in real time, because if things are messing up or if money is going out the back door, it doesn't help you to figure that out 90 days later. Like you need to know it quick. Oh my gosh, I didn't realize I had this subscription or I had fraud on my account or I was overspending in materials. Like there's so much that you can correct if you just get some element of regular reporting. And then to take it a step further, which is kind of what Profit Panda is known for, is what we call fractional CFO services. And that's where we layer in things like job costing. Typically, that's like a big buzzword is job costing, because a lot of people might have a bookkeeper or an office manager who will give them the big picture of their company. But in construction, usually your profit and loss statement isn't giving you the information that you really need to run your business. It's showing you your income and your expenses, but you and I both know that oftentimes your revenue and your expenses don't hit in the same month. You might start a job, but you might have supplier terms and pay the expenses a month later or vice versa. So having, consistent reporting is important too. So having job costing and actually seeing this is the money I made on the job, these are the expenses, how profitable was that, rather than kind of this big picture so you can kind of course correct on a micro level. But I'd be curious to know, like with you being a client on the Profit Panda side, has that been helpful? Like just getting the reporting, or like I don't know, just kind of open dialogue on that front.
Yeah, so we job cost every single job the moment we order material.
Yeah.
Uh, because the only time that will mess anything up is when the sub has some ungodly event of they taking longer than it should and need this some extra labor. So our cost is already pretty controlled in that sense. But now seeing like the chart of account and all of this money go where it's going, I'm like, maybe I should take a look at that. What's happening here? Oh, this guy over here still charged me 2,000 for, you
Yeah.
know, a consultant call that happened, but nothing was done on the back end. I need to put a stop to that. So
Right.
that's 2,000 a month. Over here, that's the overhead is a little high. If I spent $8,000 right here, what's that? So
Mm-hmm.
it's just having really close look of my business, and it's been really helpful in the sense that if we going through like an audit or buying houses or something,
Yeah.
where is my transaction? Where's my paperwork? Who did I pay? Because those kind of things do kind of come up often too. And the the hidden fee, right? That all of a sudden I have, $42,000 tax lien, or,
Yeah.
80 some thousand dollars workman comp audit that they think they should charge us. So those kind of things that it's gonna come with your business grow a little bit bigger, because there's blood in the water, and that everybody want a little bit of something.
Yeah, and actually what you mentioned about workers' comp, that's usually what I see tank a lot of businesses. There's a lot of folks who, if you're working with subs, you are on the hook for them unless they give you what's called a COI, or a certificate of insurance. So just for anyone who's listening, if you are in a sub model, make sure that you collect a W-9 and a COI. Pay attention to when those expire, because ultimately when you get audited on your workers' comp, if you can't furnish those documents, you're going to be liable. And we've seen workers' comp bills get up to $200,000-$300,000, which is insane. Like these insurance companies, they're ultimately holding, the client accountable. So that is important. And then also, if you want to do like a PEO or pay-as-you-go workers' comp, that's another way to avoid an audit. So audits are avoidable, and that's going to be a huge, huge, huge thing for someone who's year 1, year 2 in business, that you don't necessarily have to go through that stress if you don't want to, which is nice.
Yeah, and the sub model is so hard though, like, because we're always growing, we're always adding and
Yeah.
subs. So the accurate accurate reporting, or knowing when you pay somebody something is important. Or at least that's how it helped me in my case, because we already have some sort of a job costing system in the back, but I don't
Mhm.
know tech, so I don't know how to integrate all of this stuff into the tech world yet.
Yeah.
But the moment that we order a job, we we know how much money we're making in this job,
Yeah.
and the only thing that happened after that is, can you collect the money, and is there any more fee that extra on that job that you wasn't supposed to? Maybe you did the takeoff wrong, you over ordered $2,000 material, so numbers got askew until you process.
Well, and it's also important to factor in overhead, because the example that I use is kind of extreme, but you could have a job with a really good gross profit, but if it's your only job that month, you lost money that month, right? Like you have to have volume. And so typically for my folks who are just starting out, they're in this weird no man's land of being like, my overhead is really high, but I can't raise my prices, otherwise I'm going to get priced out of the market. And what people need to understand is that oftentimes you can correct your overhead just by doing more work, because the more jobs that you have, the more that you can spread your overhead across those jobs, and your margins actually get better. So kind of it, like in the example that you're saying, like having gross profit locked in is important, but then also looking at those recurring expenses to watch your percentage of income. That's huge, because ultimately the bigger that your company gets, typically your overhead should be decreasing or at least stabilizing.
And then the another thing to consider is, I brought on a sales guy in, I think, March, late March or something like that.
Yeah.
And then in May, I think we lost money, or maybe break even. I think that's one of the few months that we didn't have the profits. And then I let the sales guy go, because I knew that he wasn't selling, where I needed him to sell. He was basically, we were basically paying people to put the deck on.
Yeah, that's insane.
And you can look at the number, and the number doesn't lie, and the ripple effect of that can be felt uh, throughout the years.
Especially
However,
if you're seasonal, because if it's in a peak time and you need that money for winter, then that hurts if you don't have a profit in a peak month. Yeah.
however, I was able to get, have conversation, let that individual go within 2 months. But for other people that keep sales guy longer than that, I mean, I've seen them bringing down the whole organization, for not basically not job costing every job.
I mean, I think that that can be true for almost any position. Like there's a difference between being busy and actually getting the job done. And like you might be like, oh, this guy's hustling, oh, he's, you know, he's out there doing whatever it is, but like ultimately if he's not converting, like you do need to make that decision quickly, and so the numbers will kind of help you get to that point faster.
Yeah. And then sales guy will sell anything if you don't have a clear goal and profit margin for them to hit, and they'll do anything to get a job, basically give
Yeah,
all the
they'll like undercut it.
and make deals under the table, like oh man, but because of accurate accounting, I was able to catch that. And I was able to solidify my decision of, okay, this guy needs to go now. And I took over sales, and then, the situation kind of flipped over and we ended up the year profitable, but that's not always the case with a lot of businesses.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that's such a good point. Like just making sure that you have a pulse or at least have the information to support some of those decisions is huge. Um, have you talked like any on your podcast about kind of the subcontractor versus in-house model? Is there a reason why you went with one over the other?
For us, it's more of intrinsic motivation kind of thing. And they make more money in less time, and I make more money in less time because there's a intrinsic motivation to get the job done on time, on the money, on budget, and beautifully looking, right?
Mhm.
So the I save money, and I don't have to manage the crew. There's the crew manages themselves,
Yeah,
right? And we have to manage the project, not the crew. Project manage, so therefore we can have project manager that manage
yeah,
client and the project, not the labor. So the labor kind of figure itself out. They have their own insurance, their own workman comp, and they act as a unit, and their motivation is getting it done quick so they can move on to the next job quicker. And that relieve a lot of tax liability for me. And over time we thought that it's going to be more expensive, but it's ended up being cheaper because the all of a sudden, production was went from a week deck to 2, 3 day decks
yeah,
because there's intrinsic motivation for them to finish uh faster, and then I can control the labor costs.
yeah.
And I
Yeah, I
think
would say like that's one of the biggest questions that we get is should I do a subcontractor model in-house? And the first question I ask is like, well, what does management look like? Because if you do bring it in-house, you're gonna need people who are, you know, motivating them differently because typically if there's no management, they're motivated by getting an hourly or overtime, which is not favorable to your profit.
right. And and they ended up making more money with this model because there's less waste of time. Like, for example, guy might without management, right? They might start at 9:15 instead of 6 or 7 o'clock, and they might quit at about 2, 3 o'clock, and then drag it out until 6 o'clock, and then come back and do the same thing the next day. You
Yeah,
know, but if you take that and you put the manager out there, or now you have to accept that the manager don't do anything but just manage these guys to work. So now there's an added overhead on top of that. Uh, there's other company that have tried out piece rate, but I think that's kind of like skirting the law. I'd rather them be sub and have their own company, their own insurance, all that, rather than oh, you W-2, but let's pay you piece rate. What if something happened?
right.
Can you pay them more? We do, but it's just depend how you classify it.
Yeah.
But we like it. We like performance work.
Yeah, I think what you said was important about how you know, if folks are lingering on the job, that it's like doubling your overhead. And it's because if you estimate that a job is going to take 2 or 3 days, like you just mentioned, but you have someone who's incentivized by overtime and it takes 6 days, it now just doubled your overhead burn. And
Right.
so it's not only doubling the labor or more because you have overtime in there, but it's increasing your workers' comp, increasing your payroll taxes, increasing all of, you know, your indirect costs internally. So that's really important that you mentioned that.
And we got a lot of flack for, having old sub, like, the local competitor. That's what they would bring up the most about. But my rebuttal to the client was just like, well, are we doing a good job? These people are getting paid. I'm getting audited. If like all of this stuff is still, we still have to pay the big man, and we still manage the project, and they are incentivized
Mhm.
to be quick and flawless on your job, as you can see on our review. So it's definitely a hurdle to explain in the sales process, but most people don't care. They know you use sub. Like, think about your houses. They ain't building by one company.
Yeah, right, right,
Think of some of the exterior project that we have. They're not built by one company. They're
right.
built by, the demo team, the concrete team, the
Yeah,
deck
plumbing, electric, granite
team,
people coming in.
electric.
Yeah.
So like, what makes you think that I want to do all that shit in-house?
Yeah, that's such a good point.
It's not just a deck. Some decks have ceilings, some decks have lights. Some decks are composite, some decks are not, some decks are cedar. So and some decks have concrete. Like, we can't take on all those vertical within our business.
Mhm.
Our business is sales, and a sales, marketing, and a CEO operation.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and a project management operation is it can't, so then we outsource the labor to all these little different company that honestly, they buying new truck, they going on vacation, they having a good life, they making more money than your hourly guy that you pay $20 an hour. These guys are, raking in money.
Hmm.
And you've seen some of the payroll that we pay out for subcontractor. They're not small.
I
You,
cannot confirm or deny anything on your books.
you know, uh, but such an important point to make is basically just know your numbers. Like, construction is so scary. I'm scared to now, like, to even do a
What's
big.
your biggest fear when it comes to accounting? I would love to like clear up some like misconceptions or fears, or like just as a business owner who is, you know, just starting out or starting to see some of this success, like what's your 2 a.m. thought that keeps you up at night?
My 2 a.m. thought is, am I making the right investment of my cash,
Mhm.
or am I just adding more busy work on my plate? And the second thing is, and then maybe this is an ego thing that I have to work through, is like, are they keeping good track of where I spend my money? And that can they catch the mistake when it happened, or do I have to keep an eye on it at all time?
Mhm.
My mom always say, you need to know your money. And there's a lot of people that say that. But sometimes I don't want to worry about money. I don't care.
Yeah.
I just want to fucking spend it.
Yeah. Well, don't we all? Don't we
So,
all?
so hey, that's my honest opinion. I just want to spend money. I don't want to have to worry about money, right?
Yeah. So I would say there's a couple things just for anyone who's listening, or at least things that you can ask for to overcome some of these fears. So typically for us, we have 2 calls a month with our CFO clients. The first is what we call a financial review call. The second one is going to be more of that beefier, you know, financial reporting. But on the financial review call, we go through what's called the general ledger, which is like how everything is coded to the account. So is this a sub? Is this materials? Is this office supplies? Like, having a successful financial partnership requires some element of collaboration or just checking in So that way you spend 30 minutes with us to not have to do this 30 hours a week. You know what I mean? So ask for very specific things if you're working with a financial professional. I recommend this for anyone who owns a business. You can absolutely outsource certain functions of your company, like processing payroll, doing your bookkeeping, creating budgets and variance reports, doing job costing, but at least carve out 30 minutes to an hour a month you can spend with that person who's in your data every single day. So then that way they can give you some peace of mind or guidance or bring things up. So that's number one. And I think that will help, like, are things categorized, or does someone have a pulse on tax planning and all that good stuff? The other thing too about like the investing of money, are you more concerned about like what to do with cash, or like for me, generally, I recommend that our folks keep at least 90 days of cash on hand before they go and start, purchasing investment properties or like taking large distributions. Like ultimately, yes, we want to spend money, we want to pay ourselves because we're working our asses off, but making sure that there is some element of cash within the company at all times. And then, we can kind of use excess to do other things. But what are your thoughts about like, and I guess you elaborate a little bit more on the first one.
Uh, I think you hit the nail right on the head right there. Is sometimes I feel like um, but this is maybe my ADHD brain, right? Sometimes I feel like there's so much number, so much
Yeah.
shit that when I sit down, I don't have enough time to review it, so I might as well not do it, you know.
Oh, well, no. Like I said, you find someone who's in your data daily who can spend the 30 minutes with you to give you the key information. Let's look at the transactions. We don't feel like there's fraud, but maybe, like, we actually had a scenario where someone went to, like, what was on the books was that they went to Chipotle a few times. And for us, it didn't look like fraud because just like Chipotle didn't look weird to us. They went out to lunch occasionally on the business, but they were like, whoa, 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 I did not go to Chipotle. And so there was fraud that was caught. So there has to be an element of collaboration. But, if we can at least give you, like, scan this really quick, look at this report, let's track a few KPIs that are really important. So that way, that the business is on the right track. KPIs I like to look at, of course, is going to be an element of cash flow, weekly collections, cash in the bank, as well as like a percentage of income. So like, what's our net income? How profitable are we on the bottom line? There's obviously more that we could go into, but ultimately, those are some main things that someone can present to you on a monthly basis and for you to be like, okay, I think I'm good.
Yeah, and then it's part of it is but this is me personally, it's part of it is giving up control slowly and slowly, you know,
Yeah.
oh, this is shit show right now. Do I want them to come in here and look at this shit show, or
Don't let there be any shame when it comes to that, because I have seen some shit in my day. I promise you, and the other thing too is like, I'm so desensitized to money. Like there are people that, like, you would think that I would know how much money my clients have in their bank. I have no clue. Like, if someone were to ask me, first of all, I'd obviously never disclose it, but in my brain, I couldn't even recall it because all I do is deal with numbers. That it's like, I honestly, there's no way for me to retain all
yeah,
of that. So there's
I don't
just, there's no shame.
I don't even know how much money I have right now, and
A lot. No.
that that is good and bad because if I know how much I have, I'll blow it.
Oh gosh. Well, we're not gonna let you do that. You're gonna
That
get an angry panda on a plane showing up and crashing your house.
But that is my, to be vulnerable here, that is my, past experience, about how I was educated about money and how money was like, it's a culture thing, like, we want to spend money, we make a lot of money, and that's an Asian thing, and then we want to gamble all our money away, and we want to take a lot of risks, and we don't think about what we do, and we just go out and fucking do it. So that is one of the character uh flaw that I have. And since we being honest here, and sometimes help me and sometimes really hinder my growth per se. And I just have to be aware, self-aware enough to know when to push and when to ask for help, you know.
And I think that by kind of creating some safeguards, like what I said about having the 90 days of cash on hand, like 90 days of cash on hand should be your $0 bank balance, right? Like that's the equivalent. Because I have a lot of clients that will come to me and they're like, that's too conservative. If I've got that kind of cash sitting in the savings account, I could go invest it over here. I could put it. And I'm like, bro, no, I've never met someone who is disappointed at the end of the day that they didn't have cash on hand. You have to have some before you go, and you like, I have an element of like risk threshold. Like we're aggressive when it comes to tax strategy. There's totally a time and a place to take out debt to, launch growth. There's totally a time and a place to make investments, but you have to have certain safeguards. And once those are met, then everybody's going to kind of do what they will with their monies, depending on what they feel like is best. Fine. But I've literally never met anyone who regretted paying off their home. I literally never met anyone who had a regret around keeping cash in the bank. Never met anyone who regretted having a paid off credit card. Like it just has never happened. I know a lot of clients who can make money and they'll hold money for maybe a year or 2 or 5, but they don't keep it. They might have been rich when they're 30, rich when they're 40, but their ass is broke when they're 60. It's a completely different behavior to keep money than it is to make money. And so you have to at least implement some initial safeguards before going out and going hog wild.
Yeah. So that's that's really interesting. But looking back, I think last year was the year that we have some emergency uh payroll saving is like 3 months,
Yeah.
almost 3 months now of operating expenses. Maybe we need maybe a little bit more, but I don't really consider marketing overhead, you know.
I mean, if you literally have no other lead flow, like organic, I mean, I do build in a little bit of marketing expense because if you're the type of person that turns off Google and business dies, it's a problem, right? So it just
Yeah.
depends on your prospecting, your referrals, your organic, like.
Yeah. So that I basically this year I think it's gonna be I guess another breakout year for us. Now that we got kind of everything squared away with a lot of people, so we start the year clean and let's grow, right? But
Only up from here, only up from here. Thanks for having me on, though. I'm excited to partner with you for 2024 and see where the year goes.
so if people having problems right now, um we talked about this a little bit on a couple podcasts ago. Well, the concept of ROI, make sure you make money before you go spend on dumb shit,
Yeah.
right? It's like as us business owner, we like to buy the newest stuff, the newest thing.
I know
Uh,
I want those Apple goggle things.
I
So
know, like I think about it for a second, but talk to us about the concept of like make sure you have money first before you go out and spend
yeah.
the even if it's just an add-on for your business line, right? Like a new CRM, a new software that you're thinking. I'm just sitting here thinking about what can people do to get money, keep the money, and then starting to invest it in to make more money.
Yeah, so I would say your first year of business, you need to look at every single person and every single expense that comes out of your bank account. And if it doesn't have an ROI, it's out because you've got to be lean while you're developing the machine because ultimately you're not running perfectly. There's going to be mistakes with the way that you estimate. There's going to be mistakes the way that you're managing your labor. There has to be room in the margin to sustain those mistakes those first couple of years. Otherwise, you're going to be out of the game before you even got to play the game, right? So first couple of years, I focus on direct ROI. Once we get through that point, Then I want to focus on cash accumulation. So that's where, like, I'm going to set this up into a few different base camps. My first base camp is I want to try to get 30 days of operating expenses on hand, and I'm going to put that into a savings account. My second base camp is I'm going to try to get 90 days worth of operating expenses. But I like to use a modified profit first system. I'm not sure if anyone has like heard of profit first, but ultimately it's a way where whenever money comes into your business, you allocate where it goes before it gets used up. And so I don't like having 30 different bank accounts, but I like having a few, maybe one for your payroll, one for your accounts payable or your materials, one for overhead savings, and then I will do like a combined profit and tax account. But ultimately, be in control of the money that comes in, be in control of where it gets distributed out to. So I think just by setting up those two parameters, being lean when you're early, constantly making sure that everything has an ROI, focus on accumulating cash. If you can do that responsibly for the first few years, then you can start to kind of pull some out and have a little bit of fun.
Mm, mm. So good, so good. I was having nightmare about my new GMC. I think I brought a lemon. So it's been in the shop for like
Oh no.
three time already. They drop a new engine in it, new battery, and then it just die on me again. But I'm
No.
like, oh man, I should just bought a Ford. But that's the like, oh man, I waited so long to buy this truck, and now it doesn't even bring me the happiness. It always bring me is
Not
headache.
worth it.
And now I'm like, fuck, it's $1,600 a month. That's another sales I have to make, but it's okay. I'm justified.
Nobody, like for everyone, I'm going to say this aloud for the people in the back. Nobody gives a shit about the car that you drive, the clothes that you wear, the house that you live in. Like you might have one party a year. Literally, I had my biggest and best year in business, and I drive a 2012 Buick that's fully paid off. All of my apparel is like stuff that clients has sent me. Like I focus on being lean, lean, lean because I'm going to be retired when I'm 45. You know what I mean? Like sacrifice today because ultimately 40-year-old Madeline is going to be really happy at the decisions that 30-year-old Madeline made. And so I just keep operating. And that's not because I'm trying to starve myself and my family. We live a good life. We go take our kids on vacation. But 40-year-old Madeline is going to be really happy about the decisions that I'm making right now. Starbucks ain't worth it. Some car that I'm not even going to like when I'm 40 ain't worth it. Right. So, like, just make those disciplines now.
Right, right. So now on that note, save money. The rainy days is always coming, right? And in construction, one person stiff you is can cripple your business.
Mhm.
2% stiff you, I mean, that's your whole profit for a whole month.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not saying that I'm being funny, but I've seen it happen on firsthand, and then take out loan that when you don't know your number and you take out high interest loan, short-term business interest loan,
No
thinking
balls. Yeah.
it goes out real hard, real fast, real quick, and I don't like to take out loan unless I know that I absolutely can build it into my overhead without an extra stress on anybody,
Well, don't take out a loan unless you can quantify your ROI.
right?
Like, that's what it comes down to.
So for me is, can I buy a $40,000 truck? Probably. Does it bring me an ROI? Yes, because I go to appointment every day. So showing up in an $80,000 truck might net me better impression, so that's how I make excuse of my spending habit. But if you're
Mhm.
not running appointment, if you're not and when I say running appointment, it's like 2 3 appointment a day, not one job a week.
Yeah.
If you're not net those 2 3 job a week, and your commission doesn't cover your truck payment, then don't do it. I waited 3 years. I was in the Honda Pilot 2006, and I buy a $32,000 new truck, and then
Mhm.
now when I feel like I can have something nice, and it doesn't even fucking make me happy. It's, I have to wait for it to be worked on. It's a piece of shit. I
Facts.
I wish I could return it, but it's mine now.
Yeah.
It's my fucking problem now.
Yeah.
I have to live with it, and those are just some not so good financial decision from me that you can learn from.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you. It was awesome to chat with you. Keep crushing it.
You know I'm a hustler, hustler. You know I'm a hustler, hustler.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in. If you find this episode helpful or if it changed your life in a positive way in any manner, please share with another friend, tell another friend about this podcast, or even contact me if you're a construction business owner that have a great story to tell. Please do contact me. Again, thank you. Until next time.
I see him on the gram while they flexing rubber bands. I'm working on my foreign exchanges.